What's up, gamers? It's me, he, they, the X, the hot take vortex, the goblin squatting in your central cortex, the schizophrenic homeless man yelling at you on the street that's starting to make a weird amount of sense. I can say that. Psychosis runs in my family. I'm actually a quarter homeless on my dad's side. First things first, if you're triggered by the title, waste no time. Drop a dislike and shoot a comment about woke culture ruining everything. I agree with you. Engagement is engagement, baby. I was born to titillate and vex. However, let it be known, I like these movies. Yeah, I'm one of you. I'm a big old fan. Do I not look like one of you? I think it's cool when Captain America does a punch. Civil War is actually one of my favorite movies of all time, believe it or not. But I think Guardians of the Galaxy sucks. Juvenile baby garbage, and I shan't expound. I saw all 3 MCU Spider-Man movies on the night of release in the theater with my brother Ben from Canada.
Did you see that one part where Spider-Man was in it? That was nuts. Hey, do you want to know an Easter egg about Spider-Man Homecoming?
What?
Iron Man's in it. Hey man, I think I saw an Easter egg in that movie. Tony Stark was in it.
Well, you just said Iron Man was in it.
Both of them.
Tom Holland is by far my favorite white Spider-Man. As for non-white Spider-Man, I'm partial to Marinette Dupain-Cheng from Miraculous, Tales of Ladybug and Cat Noir. The recently aired season 4 of Miraculous is actually probably my favorite Spider-Man movie. She weeps this season, she lies, and she pushes people away.
I can't have a boyfriend. It's too dangerous.
She crumples under the pressure, convinced that she has to do everything herself.
I can't be honest with my closest friends or my parents. I am alone. More than ever before, I can barely take it anymore. No one can help me.
In the game-changing finale, it all collapses around her. She messes up bad. Expect Cat Noir to say, "I told you so," because she's been shoving him into a closet for the entire season, depriving him of the self-esteem of being able to serve her.
By the way, where's Cat Noir? You've saved Paris without him quite a few times recently.
He just doesn't trust him with any of that responsibility.
I could lend you a paw to help save time.
If you want to save me time, stop wasting it in the first place. Okay, whatever, see you later.
And he gets mad, he gets frustrated, but at this critical moment, he doesn't have a hint of "I told you so."
I've lost everything.
You haven't lost me.
And I cried, and then I laughed because of this.
You, the best superhero there ever was. Them, the people of Paris.
Now that's how you tell a singular story while building anticipation for the sequel. See what's possible when you set things up before you do major events? My favorite black Spider-Man is the Donald Glover version I made up in my head. But as for the whites, it's Tom Holland till I die. Tobey Maguire? Old, weird, looks like a frog. Get him out of here. Andrew Garfield? Garfield? But Tom, young supple boy, British backflipping baby boy. I liked his side character sparkle in Civil War. I liked the vivid youth of Homecoming, and I love Jake Gyllenhaal giving the comedic performance of a lifetime as an egotistical game developer in Far From Home.
Can you just fast forward to the end?
I'm not in love with this choreography, but it'll do.
I don't know what it is. It's something. Just, you know what?
But with No Way Home, I had fun. It was fun. When I saw the other white Spider-Man, I was like, this is fun. I mean, it better be fun. It was designed in a test tube to be fun. Me doing this would make a lot more sense if I was flexible. I never think in my lifetime I'd see 3 different Spider-Men from 3 different continuities converge because of a Doctor Strange spell gone wrong. Of course I think that's cool. I'm a human. I do activity. I like thing. But I don't want to watch it again because it, wasn't a movie? Part 1, Martin Scorsese. Martin Scorsese is a little guy. Hey, I'm a little guy. I'm from New York. I'm a little guy. I'm just a little guy. He's made many long, boring movies about violent Caucasians that are allegedly classics. Because of this, people sometimes interview this old man. To this day, if you can believe it. In one particular ill-fated interview, he made the grave mistake of sharing a completely milquetoast opinion on Marvel movies.
The only time his ardor dims is when the subject of Marvel comes up. I don't see them, he says of the MCU. I tried, but that's not cinema. Honestly, the closest I can think of them, as well made as they are, with actors doing the best they can under the circumstances, is theme parks.
Now this is very innocuous, and I can't imagine a person getting upset over it. But we're not talking about people. We're talking about Marvel fans and Twitter users. People were pissed! They weren't mad because Martin Scorsese doesn't like Marvel movies. They were mad because he said they aren't cinema. Semantics, the phantom god behind all conflict. When Martin Scorsese says that Marvel movies aren't cinema, by cinema it seems like he means art. It seems like he's saying all movies are movies, but some movies are art. Good luck with that. Marcel Duchamp said art could be a toilet. I say it's an animated French TV show made for children. DJ Khaled thinks art is saying his name very loudly in various locations.
DJ Khaled! DJ Khaled! DJ Khaled!
And he's not the only one.
They signed the rule
D.W. Griffith used the power of racism to invent the entire genre of narrative filmmaking, and then the French New Wave decided continuity errors and bad editing is genius, actually. Anytime you draw a line in the sand and you say this is art and this is not art, you're just drawing an epistemological target on your chest. It's true these are both motion pictures with characters and plot and aesthetics and music and sound and actors and directors. However, this particular property has XYZ, whereas that one only has ABC, and so this one is clearly more quantifiably cinema than that one. Oh? Show me on the doll where the movie is cinema. Real movies have white guys in New York and are boring. If you don't like a particular expression of art, that doesn't make it not art. You don't have to contort the definition of art just to express your distaste for it. As a general maxim, art can be argued to include much more than it can be argued to exclude. I can sooner persuade you that a nicely made doorknob is art than convince you that Michael Bay's Transformer movies aren't, despite how partial I am to the doorknob. But again, Scorsese has allegedly made a movie or two worth seeing. I ain't seen them, but you know, white guys, New York, cinema. So let's charitably assume that Scorsese has a point, and the issue at play is really semantics, which it like literally always is. After his stray remark went predictably viral and then was wielded by our parasitic attention economy that calls itself journalism to generate a lot of derision for profit, Martin Scorsese penned an op-ed for the New York Times to explain his initial point.
Many franchise films are made by people of considerable talent and artistry. You can see it on the screen. The fact that the films themselves don't interest me is a matter of personal taste and temperament. I know that if I were younger, if I'd come of age at a later time, I may have been excited by these pictures and maybe even wanted to make one myself. But I grew up when I did, and I developed a sense of movies, of what they were and what they could be, that was as far from the Marvel universe as we on Earth are from Alpha Centauri.
This is obviously really reasonable. His impression of what cinema is or isn't was informed by his upbringing and career. He came from a time where film wasn't even respected as an art form. It was just like schlocky entertainment or perceived as such, and he and his peers had to fight to change that. And now it's like The Flash in a 4-hour Justice League movie remake of itself, looking at a girl and he touches a hot dog and the actor's doing they-them violence in Hawaii. I understand why Grandpa's confused. But beyond that, he also has a very real point about our manufactured consent to an onslaught of predictably profitable shareholder ball-fondling products.
No matter whom you make your movie with, the fact is that the screens in most multiplexes are crowded with franchise pictures. And if you're going to tell me that it's simply a matter of supply and demand and giving people what they want, I'm going to disagree. It's a chicken and egg issue. If people are given only one kind of thing and are endlessly sold only one kind of thing, of course they're going to want more of that one kind of thing.
Based, Comrade Scorsese. An interlude. Is CJ a communist? I used to make a lot of communism jokes. And then I stopped because I started getting DMs from teenagers telling me they're basing their beliefs on what I say, and I thought, well, don't do that. I know what I think, I know what I feel, I know where my sympathies lie, I know what I intuitively find right and beautiful and good versus what I find reflexively repulsive and corrosive. What I don't know is what specific politics or systems will definitely change the world. I just vote for people that I think aren't evil, and I'm not afraid of trans people. Does that make me a leftist?
That's actually true.
Contrary to what you may have assumed, I am not a communist. However, I find the literature compelling, but we live under capitalism, and it's important to understand capitalism, and I want to succeed under capitalism while being critical of capitalism, and I hope you do too. Now, I don't mean to offend the sensibilities or hurt the feelings of my leftist viewers, but sometimes the world isn't bad. Sometimes things are like okay to good. Sometimes, just sometimes. Capitalism is kind of cool when you make something good and then people give you money and then you use their money to make another good thing. When I make art, I make it good on purpose and then I want to be paid for it. Consider pledging to my Patreon. Every month I withdraw all of your donations in 20s from an ATM and then throw it in a lake.
Thanks for the money, bitch!
I'm just saying, I know I look like a socialist and I feel like one too, but I'm just reading a lot right now before saying stuff publicly that influences people. I'm gonna get to the bottom of this shit. Scorsese in his New York Times opinion piece eloquently articulates the inherent tension between quality and profit under capitalism. He criticizes modern franchise films as mere surefire democratized financial investments as opposed to what he understands cinema to be, a risky investment from a large corporation into the vision of individual artists. The following quote is long, but beautifully written, so deserves to be appreciated in full, like a great original movie that isn't based on a previously popular intellectual property.
Many films today are perfect products manufactured for immediate consumption. Many of them are well made by teams of talented individuals. All the same, they lack something essential to cinema: the unifying vision of an individual artist. Because, of course, the individual artist is the riskiest factor of all. I'm certainly not implying that movies should be a subsidized art form or that they ever were. When the Hollywood studio system was still alive and well, the tension between the artists and the people who ran the business was constant and intense. But it was a productive tension that gave us some of the greatest films ever made. Today, that tension is gone. And there are some in the business with absolute indifference to the very question of art and an attitude toward the history of cinema that is both dismissive and proprietary, a lethal combination. The situation, sadly, is that we now have two separate fields. There's worldwide audiovisual entertainment and there's cinema. They still overlap from time to time, but that's becoming increasingly rare. And I fear that the financial dominance of one is being used to marginalize and even belittle the existence of the other.
No Way Home is the best, most theme park type movie we have yet. Like, listen, people described Endgame as like not a movie and a theme park, but it was the conclusion of the entire MCU up to that point. Like, it was remarkably reserved and patient for what it is. The fan service, mass crossover activity, and the nut-busting clusterfuck finale are all very necessary components of a thing that stands in that place. But No Way Home is a major event Spider-Man crossover movie because it's cool. That's the only reason the movie is the way that it is. The character development isn't in reaction to the cosmic event. It's literally like jammed in between recognizable actors saying lines you've heard them say before.
The power of the sun in the palm of my hand.
I'm something of a scientist myself.
My back.
I clapped when I saw it.
The conclusion of this trilogy has fuck all to do with the first two movies. Without the cacophony of bells and whistles that is the plot of No Way Home, the story is supposed to be apparently Spider-Man's origin story wherein he loses his guardian, he gets his with great power comes great responsibility, he almost gives into anger but he chooses not to and protect people instead. Aunt May dying in this movie works as a surprise plot twist because we had all assumed we'd speedrun past that shit in Civil War and Homecoming because they allude to Uncle Ben.
May cannot know. I cannot do that to her right now. I mean, everything that's happened with her, please.
And I foolishly thought we might get more information about this eventually, or even a touching flashback to his great power, great responsibility moment. But no, apparently, in this universe, Spider-Man's humble origin story involves two alternate reality versions of himself, as well as villains from other dimensions. Doctor Strange is there, and at the end, everyone forgets everything. You can't convince me this. Into the Spider-Verse also weaves a classic Spider-Man origin story into its multiverse crossover event, but Miles Morales' uncle figure gets killed by someone that's actually like from his universe, and he doesn't self-actualize and gain his moral compass based on the literal brute force intervention of an alternate reality version of himself. He saves himself.
Like, what's up, danger? Like, what's up, danger?
Also, in that movie, there's a lot less room left for first viewing applause breaks. That's like boring the second time. I loved seeing Frog Boy and Garfield back. It's very fun to watch them all interact, but it also distinctly feels like the highest budget SNL sketch in history. Part 2, Zendaya's Michi. Tom Holland might be the best white Spider-Man, but at least Zendaya didn't make Uncharted. She makes really, really good art. Not her 2013 album. That wasn't good. Nope. No, that was bad. But her acting oeuvre is iconic. Spider-Man, Euphoria, Malcolm and Marie, Casey Cooper, Lola Bunny, Michi.
Zendaya is Michi.
Loved her fleeting tone poem of a performance in Dune, walking around ominously, doing nothing, queen of vague inactivity. Mary Jane Watson as a character is someone that I don't care about. I like her in Blue in the PS4 game, but I'm not like attached to the legacy of this character. What can I say? The redheaded girl next door never did it for me, but moody bitches? Now we're talking. Michelle Jones Watson is a subversive deviation of MJ, turning a childhood sweetheart into a esoteric loner in the peripherals of Peter Parker's social life. I think that's a great idea. It's fresh, it's new, it's just what this company needs. Free thinkers and go-getters. I like my employees with their shoelaces tied and their tongues sharp, ready to pitch a bold, innovative idea. Initiative, that's the mark of a worker worth his salt. That's the mark of a corporate man with a bright future. Jonathan, I'm giving you a raise. Executing an intentionally edgy archetype is always dangerous because they tend to end up less April Ludgate and more Jace from Shadowhunters.
You show me that there is so much more to being a Shadowhunter than just killing demons.
So what upsets me personally is I'm obviously a moody, icy, sarcastic, mean little thing with a soft side. I relate to April Ludgate. So when this archetype is inevitably tried and poorly executed, I'm genuinely offended. I hate your poor pantomimes of mischief. The tricksters do not accept you. But Zendaya's performance in Homecoming gets the mischief pass.
Can't believe you guys are at this lame party.
You're here too.
Am I?
In the MCU, MJ skulks around for the whole first movie, being slightly off-putting in the background, while Peter fawns after a more outgoing, classically charming classmate. Then in between the first and second movie, Peter develops a crush on her off-screen, and then they tow around each other, and then they cute like a couple little weird teenagers, and it's cute, and I like this is cute. Then in the third movie, they're in a committed relationship with no problems, and that's true for 100% of this movie. None of the conflict comes from the relationship. The relationship is great. Oh, there's a lot of issues around them, but their relationship is never the problem. The drama never comes from that. That's not where the stakes lie. They love each other. They share their lives. They're perfect for each other. MJ doesn't do much in this movie, but she does get her quips in, makes her sardonic observation, and she encourages Peter through an absurdly tumultuous time. What MJ notably doesn't do is ever complain about being Peter Parker's girlfriend.
I wouldn't change a thing I did.
Spider-Man gets canceled in this movie. He goes from complete anonymity to being the most famous and controversial person on the planet, and he's wrecked with guilt over it affecting his loved ones.
They have nothing to do with this, sir.
You guys definitely didn't do anything wrong. Their futures are ruined just because they know me. They've done nothing wrong.
And MJ reinforces repeatedly, this doesn't bother her. She was unpopular and abrasive and comfortable with conflict before Peter, before Spider-Man. She's not gonna suddenly wilt under adversity just because her boyfriend's being harassed by people she despises. While all this wild shit goes down, Peter keeps being apologetic to her, wanting to kind of offer her an out to all of this, like I'm sorry that I dragged you into this, and she's consistently like, no, like I love you, like let's fucking figure this shit out.
I'm so sorry for dragging you into this. Listen, you just gotta help me find these guys.
You don't have to apologize.
Again and again and again, in incredibly uncomfortable and unfamiliar situations, MJ stays firm that she is where she wants to be, fighting for the side that she believes in.
You don't deserve this. Ruined your life.
Hey, no. Look at me. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. We're gonna get through this, and we're gonna get through it together.
So that's the whole movie. Is relationship good? MJ happy to be here. Peter kind of apologizing. Relationship good. MJ happy to be here. Peter kind of apologizing until the very end. And the big tragic conclusion where Doctor Strange needs to wipe everyone's memory for the world not to like blow up.
It would be as though you never existed.
But it would work, right?
Yeah, it would work.
Do it.
Okay. So this is a big sacrifice for Peter. Sure. Everyone forgets him. He's all alone. That sucks. What a big sacrifice you're making to save the world. And it's also sad for Ned because he's gonna lose his best friend. He's not gonna remember his best friend, but Ned will be fine. He's a very self-satisfied person. He has like hobbies and like a family. Like he's chill. He grows up to be the guy in the chair and he gets wizard powers, but like he doesn't, what is character development? He's naturally in touch with his vulnerability and desires. He dates, he does things, he's fine. But this mind wipe is taking away a significant portion of Michelle Jones Watson's soul. When we first met her, she was lonely and edgy and closed off, and then over the course of this trilogy, she developed into an open person that's capable of being vulnerable and intimate. She goes from this
I don't have any friends.
to this
I don't really have much luck when it comes to getting close to people.
to this.
I love you.
So everyone's memories are about to get erased, and she begs her boyfriend to come find her and bring her back to this place where she preferred to be. And then when he goes to do it, he sees she's got a boo-boo and is actually like, fuck that bitch. She's got a band-aid. She doesn't need agency. Part 3, Jesus for some reason.
The preachy lib you may have heard of called Jesus of Nazareth.
Jesus was God's little guy. He sent him out like, check it out. It's my little guy. No, what are you doing to my guy? That was my guy. It was an anarcho-socialist homeless Jew with superpowers, and he could have started a militant uprising against his oppressors. He had the clout, he had the social capital, but he actively chose not to do that. Instead, he drank wine at trap houses and talked about God. King. People would worship him, call him their lord, pledge allegiance to him, and then he would wash their feet. At the height of his fame and glory, he made a highly anticipated pilgrimage into Jerusalem, received by a crowd of adoring fans. At this pivotal public moment, he literally refused to be on a high horse, opting to arrive on a donkey instead. The Son of God rode a donkey instead of a horse. That's like me starting a YouTube channel. Regardless of if you think Jesus was the Son of God or just a really based rabbi, the symbolism of his life kicked the philosophical ass of the planet. This was God incarnate, and he deliberately lowered himself to the position of a servant. I wish I could have servants. I guess I'll just hire somebody. Convince someone that they're selling their labor to me or something. Jesus was very confident, very bold. He would say some buck wild, controversial shit sometimes on purpose to piss people off. I think also Natalie Wynn was very correct when she interpreted a lot of his quips or parables as sarcastic.
Primeval Hebrew shade.
But what did he do with all this glory, power, wisdom, and wit? What did he demonstrate that God does with his power? Washing the feet of the unworthy. He claimed his power, then used it to serve. If you're a child of God with gifts and talents and individuality placed into you by your creator, it would be fucking disrespectful to God and others to deprive the world of your value. You have to take care of this body and soul you've been entrusted with. You're borrowing it. There's a piece of God in you. It's wrong for you to keep that from other people. You have to use it to increase quality around you. You have to believe in yourself enough to know your capability and to show off when required and use the best parts of you. Servitude requires, yes, humility, but it also requires your self-esteem. Luke 8:6, no one lights a lamp and hides it in a clay jar or puts it under a bed. Instead, they put it on a stand so that those who come in can see the light. In other words, with great power comes great responsibility, bitch. In Homecoming, Peter's initially superheroing for the wrong reasons, chasing the high of Iron Man's premature prepubescent approval. He's trying to prove he's a special big boy.
But I'm ready for more than that now. Again, treating me like a kid all the time.
He may think that he's doing it because he feels like he has a responsibility, because he feels like he has a capability, but in actuality, he's doing it because he's insecure and he's trying to prove something. He's trying to be something. He's trying to do something not for others, but for himself.
This is my chance to prove myself. I just wanted to be like you.
And he fucks up and bites off more than he can chew and doesn't listen to the advice of his mentors, and then eventually he gets his privilege of service revoked.
You don't understand. This is all I have. I'm nothing without this suit.
If you're nothing without this suit, then you shouldn't have it.
At that humbling low point, he learns to take care of his life. He starts to invest in the things and people around him. He discards his fantasy of being a special big boy and instead is actually just a good person. He grounds himself and learns his own value instead of trying to claim someone else's. The pivot point of this is when he realizes that the girl that he thought was just like out of his league just was waiting for him to ask her out. He was just too consumed by this fantasy of being Spider-Man. He never actually realized his worth as Peter Parker. He's been gazing at her like she's something unattainable, but he could have literally just asked her out and gone out with her at any point for this whole movie if he just respected himself enough and wasn't trying to prove something to someone else. If you don't recognize your own value, you can't offer your value. By hating yourself, you're doing a bad job of serving others. You're dishonoring God. I'm living in your floors. You're being a bad host. Rip up the floorboards. Throw me a pack of shredded Montgomery cheese. It's for me and the rats. Leave me alone. Once he finally lets go of his fantasy and engages with the reality of his value, it all gets turned on its head, and then he has to actually do that Spider-Man, save people at the cost of his social life, but not for himself anymore, but due to an actual internal sense of capability and responsibility. New Spider-Man movie with a new take on responsibility. It's good. That's the checklist. Responsibility should be a theme of your Spider-Man movie. Good movie. Next. In Far From Home, Peter has now fought God in space and died. He just wants to be a child. But Tony Stark leaves him with a massive legacy responsibility to serve the world and take charge of, all Stark tech. All of it. It becomes clear that he does this because he knows Peter has a good heart and he wants to avoid it falling into the wrong hands. But Peter, he doesn't think he's worthy of this. He's now let go of the fantasy of being a big superhero. He thinks he's worth enough to ask the girl he likes out, which he's planning on doing throughout this movie. But he now shrinks at the enormity of his responsibility to the world because he has an actual understanding of it. He's brutally taught the same lesson of self-esteem as service at a higher level. His lack of confidence in his own capability, all of his self-doubt results in the power vacuum being filled by a malicious force. The villain of this movie uses a superpower that makes you doubt your own sanity and sense of reality. In order to defeat him, Peter has to not rely on the external messages from the world of his value or worth or capability. He has to close his eyes, look inside, and find it.
I know this isn't real.
Do you, though? I don't think you know what's real.
Come on, Peter Tingle.
That's how you do a villain that thematically where the fight means something. Thematically. Doubting your own capability, delegating responsibility, presuming that you have nothing to offer in the name of humility. You're refusing to make the world as good as it could be. If you're good at something, you should claim it and offer it. Who's gonna act on your passions if not you? I'll tell you, who's someone who cares less. Unlike the previous two manifestations of Spider-Man, we haven't had to watch this Peter Parker learn to care about other people. He hops on the scene already feeling a sense of responsibility to use his powers for good, to protect. He cares about people's feelings. He's an empath. We presume he's already learned this lesson because Uncle Ben isn't in the picture and he's already nice. The thing he has to learn instead, the way that they adapt and transmute it, is that his responsibility now is to learn his own worth. He doesn't need to learn his responsibility. He needs to learn his power. He repeatedly tries to subordinate himself to someone he perceives has actual power.
The world needs the next Iron Man, and it's not gonna be me. I mean, I'm a 16-year-old kid from Queens. It needs to be an adult with some experience and that's good, like Tony Stark, like you.
He keeps looking for adults to save him, to take responsibility, to be the powerful one. What he has to learn is he's the powerful one. He's the powerful one. He's the powerful one. I thought that was fresh. I thought it was smart. It's new. It's exactly what we need at this company, Jonathan. I thought the third movie in this trilogy would try to conclude this arc somehow. I didn't think it would be slapstick crossover comedy and Peter Parker misery porn for 2.5 hours, concluding with Sony Etch-a-Sketch shaking their intellectual property out of the MCU so they can start their own franchise. Part 4, more like No One Home. Got him. Kevin Feige owes me a soda pop because I owned him. I watched this movie and things happened, but I didn't know why. The gang's all here, but what the fuck for? Cool things happen, for sure. I know that. Spider-Man fights Doctor Strange and beats him because fractals are actually just math. That's cool.
Is that an Archimedean spiral? The mirror dimension is just geometry? You're great at geometry. You could do geometry.
Math! Y'all motherfuckers ever heard of the Mandelbrot set? The world is beautiful and incomprehensible and ever unfolding. Math and science aren't reality. They're our attempt to catch up with reality, which keeps bulldozing through us without any regard for our understanding, rendering all of our formal systems that we try to capture it with inert. We're laying train tracks behind the train. Every night before I go to sleep, my body unfurls like a flower and a strange man hangs me on a wall. Sometimes, when I'm awake, I think I'm dreaming. Drink to numb the pain. Other cool stuff happens in this movie also. Andrew Garfield gets to save MJ, which gives him a traumatic catharsis from Gwen's death. It's genuinely touching and genuinely funny simultaneously without either element tarnishing each other.
Are you okay?
Are you okay?
That's cool. Multiple people you recognize from segregated contexts speak to each other. That's most of the movie. I'm trying to remember more cool things. Daredevil was there for a scene and he catches a brick. Cool. I never watched that show. I'm sorry, it's just like a collection of things, a sum that is less than its parts. Where's the emotion in this movie? Like I know Peter suffers and he has a bad time and his aunt dies and he almost kills someone, but then someone saves him from killing and then but does he learn something? Does anyone learn anything? Even if someone did learn something, they forgot it because they got Will Smith zapped. Does this movie have themes? Let's try a responsibility reading. I feel like that's a good guess. So Peter's life sucks and he does feel some kind of responsibility to his friends who are suffering, but it's very apparent that it's mostly him that's suffering. I mean, his friends are managing fine. They're accepting, they're standing by him, but regardless, Peter goes to Doctor Strange for basically selfish reasons, but reasonable selfish reasons, to ask him to wipe everyone's memory that he was Spider-Man so that he can go back to his old life. But then he doesn't bother to plan it at all. They don't have a single conversation about altering the conscious of the cosmos. So things go wrong, obviously, and then by freak accident, now there are people here who are evil, who we killed in alternate timelines, but now they're here so we could help them. So he feels like he has to step up and do that in the name of responsibility. But then sometimes you don't want to help one of them because one of them kills your mom.
You, Spider-Man!
I guess you have to take responsibility for not having a discussion about the parameters of your reality-altering spell before it's cast. Is this the Spider-Man origin story we want? If you're gonna eschew the assumption that Uncle Ben has already died and given Peter his fundamental lesson and purport that Spider-Man has actually not yet had his formative origin story, do we want that formative lesson to be, with great power comes great, if you try to revenge kill an other dimensional Green Goblin, a guy you just met will stop you from doing that, then all your friends and allies need to forget about you forever because the world's better off that way. I'll tell you right now, your fucking girlfriend isn't better off that way.
Girl, I'm worth more than that, I can tell you that right now.
Can we get back to this? Because I hate it so much. It's so layered, it feels intentionally fucked up. The heroes win, but everyone has to forget literally everything about Peter Parker or else the multiverse will collapse. Spider-Man agrees to this to save the galaxy, but then he has to report the fucked up news to his friends. First step, reunite with your friends after a tense conflict. And look how happy MJ is. They won. Peter's okay. They're okay. They accomplished the mission. Everything is as it should be. There was a challenge. They rose to it. They get to bask in their victory and company now. Mind you, context for MJ's happiness here. Everyone still knows who Spider-Man is. Their lives are still chaotic and mired in controversy. Aunt May is fucking dead. This was hard. This sucked, but it was worth it, and she's happy. But Peter ignores the joy and instead hones in on a very minor forehead injury.
You okay?
Yeah, we're okay.
Oh my God, you're bleeding.
I'm fine. I'm okay. No,
you sure?
I'm fine.
MJ has to be like, no, look at me. I'm fine. I'm happy. That's not what this moment is about. Now is not the time to be protective. I'm great. Then as he explains the necessity of the memory wiping spell, the horror immediately clocks on her face. She's just like, no, I was happy with our fucked up reality. Don't clean it.
You're gonna forget who I am.
Forget who you are. What are you talking about?
Peter upfront promises that he will come find her and make her remember him. They will not lose their life together.
I'm gonna come and find you.
and I'll explain everything.
But MJ is appropriately blubbering in terror that this might not be possible. How do you convince someone who doesn't know you that you actually knew them in a reality that you can't prove existed?
But what if that doesn't work? What if that doesn't work? What if we can't remember you? I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that.
She's essentially dying.
We can't come up with like a plan or something, you know? There's always something we can do.
The most honest and developed and joyous part of her is imminently dying, and her only hope is that Peter will come and do his best to accomplish an impossible task in the afterlife. But she's a very strong person, so she accepts it and is determined to conquer it. She emphasizes the decisiveness of her desire with a tongue-in-cheek threat. Sorry, I'm just on my phone.
Do better. If you don't, I'm just gonna figure it out. Before I could do it again.
What a sweetheart, inserting cute little relationship levity into her own death.
This all fixes. I really hate magic.
Then she gets creative with hooking Peter into fulfilling his promise.
I love you. I love you. Just wait. Wait, tell me when you see me again.
I love you. Don't say it back. Say it when you see me in the afterlife. Say it when you come get me. I'm intentionally leaving this unresolved loose thread to emphasize my desperate desire for you to follow through on your goddamn promise. This is Peter's responsibility. He has to honor a dying wish. He's fulfilled his responsibility to the world, and now he has to fulfill his internal responsibility, the responsibility to his personal life, to his loved ones, his self-worth responsibility. At this point, I'm expecting the hopeful end of the movie to be Peter Parker walking up to MJ, having a big thing prepared, and then realizing that this thing would never work, and instead they initiate a second meet cute and have organic chemistry, and they'll probably see each other again, leaving us to wonder how this is gonna pan out, but comfortable with the knowledge that Peter is pursuing her as per her dying wish. Instead, he walks up to her, he has the note written, he's gazing at her with love, and she's looking back with interest, but he hones in on the same fucking forehead scratch. The one that she already explained she hadn't even noticed. It didn't mean anything. It was worth it.
You sure?
Fine, I promise.
You okay?
It doesn't really hurt anymore.
And he doesn't respect the narrative that she's constructed of her own life. He doesn't respect her value system or her dying wish. He takes the fucking Band-Aid as permission to abandon his promise. He'll never say I love you back. Little baby got a boo-boo, and now I have to disregard your autonomy.
Is there anything else?
She thinks she knows what she wants, but she doesn't know like I know. It's dangerous out here. Too dangerous for a girl. They might get a scratch. Fuck you. It really feels like they conspicuously made MJ this strong person that was consistently choosing Peter just so that they could take it away from her at the end. This is the most fucked up thing that happens to her, and it's Peter doing it to her. People said this ending was sad. I don't think it's sad. I think it's ghoulish. And you know what? I don't even blame the filmmakers. This wasn't a story decision. This wasn't a moral decision. I know why this is the ending. Part 5, they turned a business deal to a plot. The Marvel Cinematic Universe has made $25 billion, which is money. Dollars are a kind of money. You might also know them as bucks, bones, or smackaroonies. Money, when you have it, grants you power over people and the world. Back in the 1990s, no one gave a shit about Marvel, so Marvel didn't have any money. They were really going through it. At one point, they offered to sell Sony the film rights to almost all of their characters for $25 million in total. And Sony refused every single character except for Spider-Man because that was the only one they saw as worth anything. So Sony bought just Spider-Man for $10 million, leaving Marvel stuck with the film rights to lowly titles like Iron Man, Black Panther, and Thor. As you may have noticed, since that sale, Marvel has managed to construct something slightly more lucrative than the third Spider-Man reboot. So now in the 2010s, the Marvel Cinematic Universe is in motion, and superhero films are becoming the most popular genre of film ever, forever. And Marvel's like, hey, do you think we get Spider-Man back? We're doing a whole thing over here. I'll give you back your 10 million. We don't need it anymore. And Sony's looking at the vat of money they got, and they're looking at this thing that they got, and they want this thing, and they want the vat of money. Let's not give them Spider-Man back. The inevitable unfortunate result is a custody battle. Marvel trying to get their son back so he can play with his friends and family, while Sony vindictively milks the situation for as much profit as possible. If you can't handle the film rights to the intellectual property of Spider-Man at its worst, you don't deserve it at its best. Now, some of y'all might be like, there's two mega corporations arguing over billions. They're just trying to optimize their profits. Don't anthropomorphize them. They don't deserve our sympathy. Who gives a shit who owns what? They're just the bourgeoisie shoving the shit down our throats, pretending to be our friends, profiting off our parasocial relationship with a beloved icon. And that's true from a perspective. But I like art. I like excellence. I like beautiful things. I like creative freedom. Spider-Man is a Marvel character. He has lots of history with other Marvel characters. He's an Avenger, he's in the Fantastic Four, he's in the roster. Marvel Studios created the only excellent cinematic universe in existence. It's literally the only one. They did it. I think they should own Spider-Man. Taylor Swift should be allowed to buy her masters back for $1 zillion. It's right. Marvel should be allowed to buy back Spider-Man for $1 zillion. It's right. So why is that not happening? Why is Sony not making a multi-billion-dollar sale of this IP back to where it belongs, back to where it will be best utilized? Because everyone wants that MCU money. Marvel did something of quality that was highly profitable, and now every other film studio is obsessed with trying to recreate their success. You know this. You see the constant cloying attempts to establish a cinematic universe with every single franchise in existence. You also see that it never fucking works, because everyone wants what Marvel has, but they refuse to do what Marvel did. Make a few solid, humble solo movies, keep doing that, then do a team up as a payoff. It's actually that simple. It's not guaranteed. While Marvel did their first few flicks, they genuinely didn't know if they were going to be able to get to the Avengers, so they were prepared to just make a few good standalone superhero movies. They weren't 1000% constantly banking exclusively on the potential to franchise, and that's what worked. I'm changing the lighting. It's nighttime now. Wow! If you want what Marvel has, just do what Marvel did, but these studios are so blinded by greed, they keep spastically trying to skip 10 steps so they can just get to that money quicker, and they're still confused why it's not working. That universe, you guys, like, I have one too. Me too. Look, I made one too. Why does no one like me? No one cares about your shitty cinematic universe because they keep blowing your load on the second movie, you dumb corporate fucks. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the most consistently disappointing program on television, DC Make a Good Movie Challenge. Superman movie. Bad critical reception. Decent profit. Let's try to make an expanded universe out of it. Okay, maybe a Batman movie next. Try to make it good. Then maybe do a Wonder Woman because, you know, like women, like people like when you do women now. Then maybe a good Flash movie, and then you got a Justice League going on. Good job. Or alternatively, second movie, Batman vs. Superman, jumpstart the Justice League with a USB stick, introduce Wonder Woman and Darkseid and Steppenwolf and Lex Luthor, also kill Superman, tease his resurrection. What the fuck are you doing? Everyone likes Guardians of the Galaxy. Suicide Squad will be our Guardians of the Galaxy. Let's make it purple like Guardians of the Galaxy. We'll introduce our new Joker. Everyone likes the Joker. Calm down. You haven't even made a Batman movie yet. This all comes across as pathetically desperate for any scrap of the hype that Marvel is able to generate effortlessly. Sony is another big, sad, dumb company that just wants a cinematic universe more than anything. They've been asking Santa for 10 years. They've been a very good little girl, but they just suck so fucking bad they can't do it. They want that money, but no one gives a shit. They know they should be able to make a lot of money off him. Superhero movies are the biggest thing in the world, and we have Spider-Man. They have to be able to squeeze some money out of him, right? They have to be able to franchise the most beloved superhero on the planet, right? Not with those movies, motherfucker. They reboot it. Amazing Spider-Man. Mediocre. Pales in comparison to the last one. Greenlit for a sequel. Then you get the sequel, and they've just shoved all this shit in it in a desperate bid for attention. It comes out as this just wall-to-wall garbage piece of fucking shit movie, and then at the end they have a Sinister Six teaser. It's the only thing they can think of with Spider-Man. They're like, Sinister Six? Cinematic universe. I want a cinematic universe. Sinister Six cinematic universe. Please, 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 please. The transparent envy of Marvel mixed with the blatant incompetence is just bumming everyone out. When The Amazing Spider-Man 2 flopped like a wet Magikarp, Kevin Feige swooped in on Sony like a demonic vulture. Oh, having a hard time getting Spider-Man off the ground, are you? That's ironic, you know, considering the web is swinging. You really want a Spider-Man franchise though, don't you? Yeah, you really do, but you're really bad at making movies, aren't you? Oh, well. As you may know, we're really good at making movies. Yeah, we're good at making movies. Spider-Man in the MCU. Yes, that's a lot of money, isn't it? Maybe we can come to an arrangement. In an unprecedented move, Sony and Disney agreed to share Spider-Man and split the profits. This is great news. We get a good movie. Sony and Disney both make bucket loads of money. That's good. Sony was like, oh my God, people like one of my movies. And Marvel was like,
I am altering the deal. Pray I don't alter it any further.
Marvel, I think understandably, because they just made Spider-Man big again, was like, can we buy him back? No? Okay, well, let's just split the next one 50-50. Just give it 50-50. 50-50? But no, Sony would rather die. I'm sorry, I'm simplifying the negotiations. I actually researched them quite thoroughly. Sony and Marvel were able to come to an agreement for 2 Spider-Man movies and some Avengers appearances, but then their negotiations broke down before they could complete the trilogy. It took mass fan outcry and personal intervention by Tom Holland to get them talking again, and when they finally did, they reached some sort of understanding, and then they made No Way Home. And with this context, you can finally see this movie for what it is. 2 corporations cooperating to ejaculate over all of our faces, pooling all their resources to reap as much money as humanly possible out of the spectacle in a last hurrah before a soft reboot when they can stop talking to each other finally. Think about it, ho. Using the MCU, Doctor Strange sucks in the realities of previous Sony movies. We relentlessly bathe in the crossover for 2 hours, then, at the end, you wipe the minds of everyone in the MCU, setting up Tom Holland for a clean slate with Sony Spider-Man solo movies. Then put Venom in it, people will clap. You're getting your dog shit Sinister Six movie whether you like it or not.
It broke new ground!
This movie was written as the solution to a negotiation breakdown. It panders to their mutual audience while narratively peeling their studios apart. If the initial impasse was not overcome, we would be stuck with Far From Home's cliffhanger ending with no way to resolve it. But No Way Home goes balls to the wall with their combined IP, then wipes it all away with magic. Ta-da! This is why the ending feels so cynical and dour, not because Peter's making a big sacrifice for any particular reason, but because we're just looking at a business deal. The MCU gets timely multiverse street cred for allowing Sony characters to break into their reality, and Sony gets the audience primed for new, smaller, shittier Spider-Man movies. This explains the disrespect they show MJ while also making it 10 times worse. If Sony wants to right now, they can just launch right into Gwen Stacy and Peter can make a new best friend named Harry Osborn. Fucking don't even worry about it. So why was No Way Home kind of sexist? Because this movie was written backwards from Sony and Disney's financial interests. This wasn't the conclusion of a trilogy, this was the beginning of a fucking awful Sinister Six movie. Now I know these studios might work things out with each other to keep the money train going. I know that this is just constructed as the opportunity for them to split if things break down again, but the movie is still the movie. I can't not see the meta-narrative. I respect the work that went into it and the craft on display and the value of the spectacle, but this is everything that I dislike about artists being beholden to corporate interest. I wish my Spider-Man multiverse movie was different. I wish my favorite white Spider-Man got a proper conclusion to his trilogy. The ending of season 4 of Miraculous was sad. The ending of No Way Home is depressing. I had fun, but honestly, the closest I can think of it, as well made as it is, with actors doing the best they can under the circumstances, is a theme park. Watch Miraculous.
I think I'm an addict, want the world and I'ma have it. I'm so fucking dramatic, got all my bones up in the attic and I dance them all around like a marionette.
If you're a fan of what I do here and you want to see it continue, consider donating to my Patreon. This channel is funded by Patreon. This video is brought to you by my patrons. This video is sponsored by my lovely donors on Patreon. Thank you to my donors on Patreon. Patreon.com is a platform. I'd like to thank Patreon. This video wouldn't be possible without Patreon. To support the creation of more content like this, consider donating to my Patreon. This wouldn't be possible without my lovely patrons. I'd like to take a second to thank my lovely patrons. Patreon.com is a website. If you like the videos I make and want to see me make more, consider donating to my Patreon. Support this channel by pledging to my Patreon. Before the video ends, I'd like to give a big shout out to our donors on Patreon. If you'd like to see more of this kind of content, consider becoming a patron. This channel wouldn't be possible without Patreon. Before the video ends, I'd like to say thank you to my patrons. If you'd like to see more videos like this, consider donating to my Patreon. Donate to my Patreon in the next 5 minutes or else everyone in the galaxy will forget your name. Because this channel doesn't take sponsors, we're very grateful to our supporters on Patreon. I'd like to thank you all for watching and a big particular thank you to our supporters on Patreon. This channel is funded by Patreon. This video is brought to you by our supporters on Patreon. Patreon is a website. Consider donating to my Patreon.